Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to this episode of The Fiddle. My name is Naved Anjum, and I am joined today by a very special guest, seasoned journalist, broadcast journalist, Sahar Zaman, who has just come out with a definitive biography of her grand uncle, Talat Mahmood, who was this pioneering, ghazal singer of, the golden era of Bollywood. That is the 2 decades from the 50s until the 70s. And Sahar, welcome to this show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Of course, there's a great deal to talk about, but we'll begin with the beginning. How this biography actually took shape with your conception of, Jashne Talat.
Yes.
That is the program that actually made you think about writing this biography. So if you could talk a little bit about that.
That's very right, Naved. You've really understood my journey well on this, because I wasn't focused about Talat Mahmood's career at all. I was too busy in my own journalism and television news career. But there was this moment in my life some 5 years ago where I decided to start a music tribute concert series, Jashne Talat, dedicated to the music and films of Talat Mahmood. So that's how my journey of rediscovering his legacy, his music legacy, and my family connection to him started, where we did all these music concerts across cities, Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, Lucknow. And the idea was to revisit only his songs. So we had established singers singing his songs on stage, Kathak dancers dancing to his original soundtracks on stage, portrait artists making his paintings. So that was really the start of first me coming out in the open and saying that yes, I'm related to him, because for 20 years in my journalism career, I never spoke about it. No one knew. Then suddenly when I wanted to do Jashne Talat, everyone was so shocked. Sahar, we know you for so many years, and how could you never mention it? Yeah. So that's how the journey started, and I discovered so many more things about his pioneering career, about the path and the journey he took, that all of it couldn't fit on a concert series. So I decided that it's time to write the biography now, and no one else has written on his life, and I found myself in a very fortunate position, both as a family member as well as a journalist, who could really put this together in that manner. I think.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because, you have that vantage point of being a relative, right, and also being a journalist who has his own impulses of digging deep into a story. Mm-hmm. And I was a little curious to know that, both these things, there is always, as a family member, there's always this inclination to, tread, and you're right, that how it was a tightrope walk for you. Yeah. And so were there moments when, a journalist's curiosity or impulse to dig deep and a relative's sort of instinct to reveal only that much, right, seed each other's?
I know what you mean. So if I was being honest to my role of a grandniece, I wouldn't have been honest to my role of a journalist. I couldn't deceive myself from being the right journalist to put this work together. So that way it was a very tightrope walk. And there were areas where I had to dig into family history, some uncomfortable truths that family didn't want to talk about. So like him starting out on his own, having arguments, not arguments but disagreements with his father, and walking out and not coming back home till he established himself. Choosing his own choice of life partner, finding his love outside the traditional Lucknow Muslim household community, and finding a life partner outside. So a lot of this was sometimes spoken about and not as much in family. We were more about celebrating his success and celebrating his music and legacy. So yes, there were a lot of uncomfortable conversations that I had to have with my family members, that listen, this is a huge gap. I need to fill it. I need to know what really happened, and decide how to put it across, and not shy away from giving out the truth as well, because I wouldn't have been true to my own journalism then, you know. So I've taken care of both in that sense.
No, and it shows through the kind of sensitivity and that, you know, a story of, you know, of his life and legacy that deserves, that actually is shot through that kind of, you know, understanding of a writer. So this story, it's told well, and also not just, you know, about him, but also about the times that he lived in. Yes. And that brings me to another question about, you know, you, of course, you begin his story with his growing up years in Lucknow, yes, and then his transition to Kolkata, and you know, of course, that you know, his you know, studies in music, that was very crucial to who he became, and the kind of, you know, the texture of voice that became his distinct identity in that sense. So if you could talk about, you know, those years from Lucknow to his move to Kolkata, and then we can come and talk about the Kolkata years later.
So this was, of course, to help our viewers understand, we're talking about a period of pre-independence and much before independence. He was born in 1924, and then his growing up years in Lucknow and his shift to Calcutta. It used to be Calcutta because we're still talking about British India. His shift to Calcutta in the late 1930s or early 1940s. So this is obviously a time where we are unaware of how the cities were, how Lucknow and Calcutta used to be. So I had to research first on how the cities were at that time, and what was the mood and feel of the cities at that time, and what my family members had to share about those cities. So I had to literally in my head plonk myself in that time zone. So I time traveled a lot for this book. I remember when I was writing the book, and my colleagues would ask me, how's it going? And I would say, you know, right now I know nothing about current affairs or elections or what's happening here, because I'm literally sitting in a very different time zone. So he was born in a Lucknow Muslim household, and it was very cultural, but it was also conservative. Now, cultural in the sense that Urdu poetry was appreciated, Mausiqi, music was appreciated. They would have mehfils and baithaks at home. A lot of the top stars and performers of those time would come home to perform their ghazals and their mushairas and all. So that was the kind of cultural household he was born into. But I would say traditional in the sense that arts and culture was always made clear that these are things to appreciate and enjoy, but you don't take it professionally, and more importantly, you don't use it, you don't earn from it commercially. So in that sense, it was very traditional and conservative, and that was a battle that Talat had to win with his father, with his own father, that you enjoy the arts, but you don't earn from it commercially. So that is something he had to work around and finally convince his father to the extent that first convince his father that he will finish his school, because education was so important at home in our house, and then convince his father that continue with education but music education. So he convinced his father to get himself admitted to Bhatkhande Music School, which at that time during the British was called the Maris Music College. So and then his father finally thought that maybe that's the end of it, कि music में पढ़ाई होगी and now he can move on to something else, some real work. But he said, no, I've studied music now and I'm going to work in music, I'll be a professional. So every step was bit by bit pushing the envelope, and he had his Phupi, his father's sister, who was Mehlaka Begum, such a wonderful woman, and such a, yes, and such a rare liberal woman of her times, who didn't wear the burqa, who did all these mehfils at home, who encouraged all the artists and encouraged him as well, because she could see the talent in him and the sensitivity of the mind of an artistic boy. You know, the boy had an artistic mind, so she could see that. And you mentioned Calcutta, so this was also, of course, Calcutta during the British, and it was a mighty commercial capital. Moving from Lucknow, which had a very different sense of cultural aesthetics, to Calcutta, which had a strong influence of, stronger influence of the British and also the American GIs who would drop by. So there was Hollywood and jazz there. So getting used to a big city, and then really starting out, meeting his idol K.L. Sehgal there. Getting signed up for new theatres, and which was
before
one of the
HMV, I think.
The HMV recording was, in fact, he was such a star in college. HMV spotted the college talent in Lucknow and said that let's sign up your first single and then record. And when he recorded for HMV in Calcutta, which were in very famous studios of that time.
On the Park Street
No, this was slightly on the outskirts at that time. It was also the studio where Gaur Jan had first recorded her music, and Rabindranath Tagore and Panditji had recorded their political speeches.
You write about that?
Yes, I write about that as well. So there is where he recorded Dum Dum Studios. Yeah. So where he recorded his first song when he was just 16 years old in college. सब दिन एक समान नहीं था, सब दिन एक समान नहीं था. So in this you can hear a very strong influence of Sehgal. He's singing in that low bass, baritone, nasal tone. But Pankaj Malik spots him and says, let's sign you up right away. And he said, no, I have to finish my studies. And 3 years later, he comes back to Calcutta, then signs a contract with New Theatres, and then sings Tasveer. Tasveer teri dil tera behla na sakegi. Yeah.
You share, of course, kind of personal relationship with most of his songs, and there is this anecdote that you mention in the book about how you sang that in your school. Tasveer only. This was the one which also got you an award. And
so I say that Tasveer is the lucky charm.
Right.
It was the lucky charm for his career. It was the lucky charm for me to win the school award as well.
Right. And then there was this transition to Mumbai, but as you write, and rightly so, because when he arrives in Mumbai, that was Bombay then, of course. Then he does not arrive as a newbie or somebody people have not heard about, unlike other strugglers of the year, of that period. And if you could give us a slight sort of understanding of how those years, his early years in Bombay shaped up, because that was also the time when Dilip Kumar, Devanand, all of these, and some of with whom he would later on go to work with strongly. So if you could talk about that.
In Bombay, he was an established name in Bengali songs as Tapan Kumar, and he was one of the singers who were part of the modern Bangla music movement. In which in modern Bangla the genre itself is about giving more importance to lyrics and less classical music, and there was a lot of influence of jazz and orchestra. So he was one of those voices, and whenever he sang Bengali songs in the name of Tapan Kumar, but when he sang his Urdu ghazals, it was name of Talat Mahmood. So as you mentioned, when he arrives in Bombay, Talat Mahmood was a famous name. Everyone had heard his records and admired his voice and his music. So he thought that if I've made myself a name in Calcutta, and if the showbiz industry at that time was shifting to Bombay, because this was edging into independence, and the commercial capital was also gradually shifting to Bombay, so was the showbiz industry shifting to Bombay. So he thought it'll be easier now, it's not going to be so tough, I just shift cities and continue with my work. But in Bombay, he was just confronted with a very strange challenge. The quality of his voice, of the vibrato, which was appreciated in Calcutta, was looked down upon in Bombay. A lot of music directors didn't want it. So he was suddenly hit by a strange challenge, and suddenly something that was a USP was looked down upon. So he was so taken aback, and he was in a state of shock, because he felt that if I can't make it in Bombay, I can't make it anywhere else, because Bombay is where the industry shifts next, And then of course that follows into a lovely incident with Anil Biswas on how he decided that I will show everyone how your vibrato is special and everyone will want it in their music, and that hide and seek that happened with Anil Biswas ji on to get his appointment and then to finally record, and that becomes a huge hit, and that is what also establishes the Dilip Talat partnership from the film Arzu. "Ae dil mujhe aisi jagah le chal jahan koi na ho, ae dil mujhe aisi जगह ले चल जहाँ कोई न हो."
Beautiful. Very nice. Yeah. So, and you write about, we were talking about his identity as a Tapan Kumar, and it was very important, and for our audience, that this shift from those very culturally very vibrant city of Lucknow, and having grown up in that Urdu speaking world, he moves to Kolkata, and there he is asked to sing in Bangla, and that he exacts that kind of diction, and sings so well that people confuse him as if he was born and brought up in
the longest time. And I remember my colleagues in my newsroom in that late in the early 2000 and mid 2000, till that later day, people were so convinced that Tapan Kumar is a Bengali man, is a Bengali boy, and he sung these songs because they never thought an outsider could perfect that accent so much. And he displays that later in other regional songs as well. Yeah.
Coming back to his years in Bombay, I mean, of course, he would then try his hands at acting also, and there would be well-known actresses of the era that he would work with. If you could give us a sense of how that panned out for him and how he sort of moved back to classical singing.
So early 1950s, he was the #1 singer, if I may say so, the #1 singer of the film industry, because before these partnerships started, that one actor preferred Mohammad Rafi Saab's voice, another actor Raj Kapoor Saab preferred Mukesh Ji's voice. But in the early 1950s, he sang for everyone, and everyone wanted to lip sync to his voice. So he sang for Dilip Kumar, Raj Kapoor, Dev Anand, and everyone else, Sunil Dutt, Manoj Kumar, and he was really singing for everyone, Bharat Bhushan. But increasingly producers started noticing his good looks, and because singing is behind the scenes job, but as a singer he had the largest female following, this crazy frenzy, that kind of a following. So a lot of producers approached him saying that you're such a good looking handsome man and you need to be in front of the camera as well. So he said, okay, I don't like the camera, I'm very shy, but if you insist, I'll do that. But the condition, of course, being that only I will sing my songs whenever I'm acting. So that was, of course, there. But there was a huge contest by the first producer who made Dil Nadan, his first Bombay film. Set out a huge contest on who's going to star opposite. So there was Shama and there was Peace Kaval, who won a contest to star opposite Talat Mahmood. That was the buzz that was created for Talat Mahmood coming on screen as the actor. The film didn't do very well, but he was noticed as a great presence on camera, and because of his charming looks and handsome persona. And then that followed into doing at least 13 to 15 films on screen as an actor, with co-stars such as Nutan, Shama, Mala Sinha, Suraya as well. And the one with Suraya was a Jubilee hit, which was the film named Varis. And his performance had also matured by that time. The one that he did with Nutan, Soni Ki Chidiya, in that it was a very surprising role that he had taken up and was given to him, because he's of course the love interest of Nutan, but he also has a negative role in the sense he ditches her and doesn't get married. He just ditches her and leaves. So, and that was handled with great maturity, that performance. Yeah.
Some of his iconic songs that you think, I mean, there are of course too many to name here, but some of the songs that have stayed with you and that you think that today's generation should listen to, revisit.
Yes.
Sujata's song, of course.
Songs that this generation are still listening to are Dil Nadan. I'm sorry. Yes, of course, that is Mirza Ghalib. Dil Nadan, Tujhe Hua Kya Hai. Sujata, you mentioned, that of course is his signature hit, Jalte Hain Jiske Liye. Then there is Sham-e Gham Ki Qasam, which is such a soft, beautiful song. In fact, Khayyam Saab, the music composer, says that we experimented on that song. We decided not to use any percussion instrument, no tabla, dhol. So it's done without that rhythm. It's only done with the violin and orchestra. And as he says in his own words, कि उस गाने ने तो धमाका कर दिया था, So and that was Khayyam Saab's also personal favorite. So was it on Dilip Kumar Saab's top personal favorite list as well, and for Talat Nana as well. So yeah. Yeah.
A little this brief stint with the South Indian film industry and some songs that he sang for that. Of course, he worked with MGR, and you have the 2-3 brief chapters on the South Indian his association with the South Indian film industry. If you could talk about briefly about that.
So I separately spell out these chapters because his film career and his ghazal career is spoken about so much and was such a phenomenal hit that one tended to look away and not know about his regional hit songs. In fact, he sang so well in Marathi that he won the Best Singer Award of the Year from the Maharashtra state government. And then you mentioned South Indian. He has a big hit, and this was much later in the 1970s in Malayalam. Which is a huge hit, which one YouTuber told me, and she's been quoted in the book as well. I've always tried to connect the youth to the book, and a lot of quotes from today's artists as well. She says that when you listen to him, one can never say that he's someone who doesn't know Malayalam. He's not a Malayalam speaking person. And so she revisits that song and sings it in her own style, inspired by the softness of his voice. Then with P. Sushila, there are songs in Telugu as well. That was, of course, in the late 1950s, the early 1960s, which was part of the prime of his career. And I'm so fortunate that she's still around. She's very old and feeble. She's 90 plus years old. But I managed to find her number. That is where my journalistic work got in and got into action, and I found her number through some of my colleagues and spoke to her, and she said the same thing, that one has not heard such a sweet voice, and his pronunciation was just so perfect. Even she was surprised, So
I think in his foreword, Sonu Nigam also says that nobody could sing like him. I mean, and it was he sang many songs, but it was one of his ghazals that he had sang at some point that really stood out, and that was recognized by Lata Mangeshkar as well. Yeah.
So Sonu Nigam, who's written a special note in the book as one of the forewords, mentions this very personal experience that one knows that it's impossible to sing like him, but when he sang Phir Wahi Sham from the film Jahan Aara, Lata Mangeshkar came to Sonu and said, you sang that song on your TV show, and it is remarkable how you sang it, because it's very difficult to sing it. And he couldn't believe that what has been said by Lata Didi about him and about his voice. So it was really nice to have him share that for the book as well. So that was really nice. Yeah.
Sahar, this biography, of course, apart from the fact that it's a definitive one, and it's one which bristles with a lot of these personal anecdotes that nobody would have had access to. This does a great service to all of us who are interested in that era of Bollywood, and it's a kind of ready reckoner for a lot of us who want to go back to the era and find out, and especially a voice like Talat Mahmood, who was far-sighted. He was much ahead of his time. He was somebody who would use violin and guitar in his music, in ghazals, and inspired a whole generation of ghazal singers later.
Western sounds in ghazals, like nowadays if you have ghazal singers using the guitar and saying it's fresh, he actually did that in the 1950s. He brought in the drums and the guitars for one of his ghazals, and testimony that people liked it or people were not outraged is the fact that was a hit, and yes, I think he single-handedly established the independent ghazal music industry as we know it today. He gave it that commercial backing because of the sales of his records, and we have later legends like Mehdi Hasan. In fact, there's a whole chapter in the book which talks about what an admirer Mehdi Hasan was of Talat Nana and Jagjit Singh, and they all got into ghazal singing listening to him, So he admired a whole generation of ghazal singers, and who also looked at it as a viable option as a genre to be part of in the music industry, in the setup of an industry per se, Yeah.
You have published this as on Kindle, basically. It's a big book. It's runs into nearly 500 pages, 480 pages, rich with detail, rich with photographs, your personal family photographs, and again very, very personal, but at the same time giving you a fair idea of how his professional trajectory sort of evolved and how he became who he became throughout across the time. One last question, and then we'll wind up, Sahar, about this route that you took. You know, the other path would have been that you would have gone to a traditional publisher, but perhaps there would have been restrictions on the number of pages. Or why did you choose to take this route and not go via publishing? You know, through traditional publishing route.
Well, first of all is accessibility. I think as an e-book, and as an e-book and having it on a platform like Kindle, Amazon, which is global, is unparalleled market accessibility. And also I think there are certain restrictions as far as publishing houses are concerned, because you have to fit a certain bracket or fit a certain, because they're also looking at pricing. So you have to fit a certain number of words and a certain number of thickness of the book. And what I've done with the book is that to also make it more exciting and add a novel factor of images. I've taken a lot of images from family albums, cleared them up, cleaned them up digitally, made them high res, colored some of them if they suited the color tone. And there are images, some very new images, even though he was so famous, and there are images of him all over the internet, but many images in the book are new, which would be a great delight for Talat Mahmood fans that you've not seen before. And there are images almost every third page of the book, with respect to the context, the content in the chapter. So keeping all of that in mind, I thought Kindle was more manageable as an e-book. Even though I'm working on a print version to make it more affordable, because I don't want to get into that category of a coffee table book, which then gets out of reach, because there's so many genuine music lovers who write to me, who've been writing to me personally for in the past 1.5 to 2 years, knowing that I'm in this process of writing the book, and they're just been waiting. So if their preference is a print book, so we're working on that formula. But if you're comfortable with the e-book, it's already out there, and you know.
And they can download it on Amazon Kindle.
Yeah, you can download it, zoom it, enjoy the images, scroll up, scroll down, do whatever. It's such a liberating medium.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's also a medium where you say a lot of things, which may not otherwise go down in an industry.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, on that note, Sahar, it was really lovely talking to you. Next year, in February, on 24th February, is his birth centenary. Yeah. So I'm sure a lot of us who is interested in Talat Mahmood, his legacy, and the kind of times he lived in, they'll go back and buy this book, read this book. Thank you so much for writing this and for this conversation as well.
Thank you for appreciating the writing, because this is very new to me. I'm used to sitting that side and asking questions and, you know, digging into other people's work. But right now I'm in this new avatar of being an author and talking about my new book. So thank you for making that comfortable for me to be facing the questions.
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much, Sahar.
Thank you. Thank you.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.